What if I told you there was a secret so old that time itself bowed to protect it? A wisdom whispered by the god who first taught humanity to write reality into being. Long before pyramids or prophets, Thoth walked the threshold between worlds, carrying the fire of divine knowledge, the power to speak creation into form. But that knowledge was hidden, buried beneath centuries of silence, sealed behind symbols and myth, because those who found it too soon lost themselves to its weight. Yet the signs have begun to stir again, the numbers, the patterns, the dreams that don't feel like dreams. Something ancient is remembering you. Tonight, we open the gate to the secret that was never meant to disappear. The one truth humanity was protected from until now. They say that knowledge is power, but what they never told you is that true knowledge is alive. It breathes, it watches, it chooses who may touch it. Thoth understood this. He was not merely a god of writing or wisdom, he was the embodiment of consciousness observing itself. The Atlanteans called him the voice that shapes light into form, the mind of the universe thinking through man. When the great cataclysms came and Atlantis fell beneath the waters, Thoth did not perish. He moved through dimensions, preserving the essence of civilization within the tablets of emerald, crystalline records that contained the frequency of creation itself. Each symbol etched upon them was not ink, but resonance geometry so precise that it could alter the structure of reality when spoken or comprehended. Those who later discovered fragments of this wisdom attempted to decode it through language and ritual, yet language could only distort the purity of vibration. The priests of Kem, what you call Egypt, became the keepers of fragments, building temples not merely as monuments but as harmonic instruments. The walls of Dendera, the columns of Luxor, even the shafts of the Great Pyramid were tuned to frequencies that mirrored the cosmic pulse. They were meant to remind humanity of a truth long forgotten, that thought creates, sound shapes, and consciousness commands energy into order. But time erodes memory, and power draws corruption. As dynasties rose and fell, the secret teachings of Thoth were concealed beneath allegory, myth, and ritual. The emerald tablets were said to have been hidden deep beneath the sands, guarded by initiates who swore oaths of silence, sealed by their very breath. For those who were not ready, the words of Thoth acted as a mirror, reflecting their inner chaos back upon them. To read the tablets without purification was to confront the unfiltered mind of the cosmos, a blinding light that could either awaken or annihilate. That is why the mystery schools warned, only the pure in heart may cross the threshold. Yet fragments of this ancient current survived. You can find echoes of it in the Hermetic texts of later ages, in the phrase, as above, so below, as within, so without. That single axiom contains the seed of Thoth's most dangerous revelation. Reality is recursive. The inner and outer worlds are not separate. They mirror each other perfectly. Change the pattern within, and the world without rearranges itself in response. This knowledge, when understood, frees a person from the illusion of control imposed by external authority. No priest, king, or ruler can bind one who knows that creation responds to thought. And so, the knowledge was buried not to protect you from it, but to protect the system from you. Imagine a world where every human being remembered that their mind is a fragment of the universal mind, capable of sculpting matter, bending probability, and directing destiny. The hierarchies of power would crumble overnight. The temples of commerce, politics, and false religion would fall silent. This is why Thoth's wisdom was labeled myth, why his words were translated into riddles, and his image turned to stone. For as long as humanity believes the gods are elsewhere, the rulers remain safe. But time is cyclical, not linear. What was hidden returns when the age is ready. In every era, certain souls awaken and feel the stirring sense that there is something ancient calling from within. Perhaps you have felt it too. The déjà vu that makes no rational sense. The dream that feels older than your life. The moment of sudden knowing that cannot be explained. These are the whispers of the old current, the frequency of Thoth's light moving again through the collective field. The universe speaks in vibration, and you are one of its notes. To grasp why this knowledge was deemed dangerous, you must first understand what Thoth discovered. He realized that thought is not confined to the brain. It is a waveform that extends into the quantum field, weaving patterns that eventually crystallize as events. Each emotion carries a frequency, and each belief acts as a filter that determines how energy organizes itself around you. The Emerald teachings reveal that reality is not fixed. It is fluid, responsive, intelligent. When Thoth recorded these laws, he did not write them for worship. He encoded them for remembrance, for the day when humanity would once again become conscious creators. Yet this very revelation is what frightened the early priesthoods. If reality could be shaped by thought, then the masses could overthrow the gods. The priests decreed that such knowledge must remain hidden, shared only among the initiates deemed worthy. Over centuries, the sacred science of consciousness was diluted into superstition. The temples became centers of control rather than gateways to freedom. Ritual replaced understanding, and symbols lost their resonance. The living knowledge turned to stone. Still, it waited. Energy cannot die. It only transforms. Beneath the shifting sands, beneath the cycles of empire and ruin, Thoth's current continued to hum, waiting for those who could feel rather than merely believe. Those who listened beyond the noise of reason could still sense the pattern. They began to see synchronicities, alignments of meaning that defied logic, and knew that reality was whispering. This is how the modern seeker begins to rediscover Thoth's path. Not through dusty scrolls, but through direct experience. The signs, the repeating numbers, the uncanny timings, all are echoes of the same Hermetic law. The universe mirrors your state of consciousness. The danger lies not in the knowledge itself, but in misunderstanding it. When one awakens to the fact that thought shapes reality, ego often tries to seize control. It seeks to manifest desires born of fear, greed, or vanity. This misuse creates distortion, attracting chaos instead of harmony. Thoth warned of this. His teachings emphasize alignment with the higher mind, the aspect of self that is in resonance with cosmic order. To command reality without harmony is to shatter oneself against the very structure of creation. This is why the uninitiated were forbidden to read the tablets. They would see only power, not responsibility. Even today, fragments of Thoth's wisdom persist in hidden corners, in alchemical symbols, in sacred geometry, in the whispers of those who dream of light. But most of humanity remains asleep, convinced that reality is external and random. They laugh at the notion that thought could move matter, unaware that every structure of civilization, every invention, every city, every belief system was first a thought. Thoth's knowledge is not superstition. It is the blueprint of creation itself. And now, as the cycles turn and the veil thins, the call returns. The same knowledge that once raised Atlantis and built the pyramids begins to stir within those who are ready to remember. You might feel it as curiosity, as a hunger for something beyond reason. That is the beginning of awakening. The moment the emerald current touches your awareness and asks, "Will you remember?" The moment you begin to remember, the illusion begins to fracture. The world around you no longer feels as solid, as certain. Synchronicities begin to multiply, the same symbols appearing in different forms, conversations that seem orchestrated, dreams that bleed into waking life. At first, it may feel like madness, but what you are truly witnessing is the architecture of reality responding to your rising awareness. You are beginning to see the code behind the form. This is what Thoth called the unveiling of the hidden light. For light is not only photons or fire, it is awareness itself, consciousness, illuminating its own reflection. In the temples of Chem, initiates were taught to navigate this unveiling through sacred rites that mirrored the journey of creation. They learned to still the mind until thought became transparent, until the boundary between self and cosmos dissolved. Within that silence, a vibration would arise, the original tone, the word that called the universe into being. The priests called it the soundless sound, the echo of the one mind reverberating through all dimensions. To hear it was to stand at the threshold of godhood, yet not all could endure it. Many turned back, For to perceive reality as fluid is to realize that every thought, every emotion, every hidden belief is sculpting the world around you. And that realization demands a level of responsibility that few are ready to bear. Thoth's wisdom was dangerous not because it corrupted, but because it liberated. Liberation terrifies those who rule through control. To free the mind is to end tyranny. This is why his teachings were buried beneath symbols that only the awakened could decode. The ibis-headed god holding a writing reed, that image was not literal. The reed symbolized the line between heaven and earth, the bridge of communication between realms. Thoth was the mediator between the divine and the mortal, between infinite mind and finite perception. To write, in his sense, meant to shape the universe with intention. Every stroke of the reed was an act of creation. Those who learned this art became builders of reality. They understood that architecture, language, and mathematics were not separate disciplines, but expressions of the same underlying harmony. The temples of Egypt were living equations. Their measurements encoded cosmic ratios that linked human consciousness to the motions of the stars. To walk through them in the right state of awareness was to be initiated into a cosmic symphony, every column, every hieroglyph vibrating in tune with the order of the heavens. The ancients called this Ma'at, the divine balance. To live in Ma'at was to be in harmony with the source. To defy it was to fall into chaos. When the last true initiates vanished and their knowledge fragmented into myth, humanity began to drift further from the source. Science replaced wisdom, intellect replaced intuition, and the sacred art of co-creation became the pursuit of control. But beneath the surface, the Hermetic current persisted. It whispered through philosophers, alchemists, poets, mystics, each rediscovering a fragment of the same eternal law. Hermes Trismegistus, the thrice great, was said to be Thoth reborn, transmitting the same truth in a form humanity could grasp for its age. The Hermetic writings are not religion, they are reminders, mirrors for those who are ready to remember. In those texts, Thoth's voice still speaks, "All is mind." That phrase alone carries the entire structure of creation. Everything you experience, from the stars to your thoughts, is an expression of a single infinite consciousness observing itself through infinite forms. When you begin to truly feel this, not just believe it, reality starts to bend around you. Patterns emerge, alignments appear, and the boundaries between inner and outer dissolve. What you once called coincidence becomes communication. What you once dismissed as imagination becomes revelation. But here lies the great paradox. The same realization that frees you can also undo you if the ego claims it. Thoth warned that the lower self, the personality, the mask, will always try to seize the power of creation for personal gain. When that happens, the energy collapses inward, devouring itself. This is why the teachings were always paired with purification. To receive higher knowledge, the vessel must be clear. Otherwise, the power amplifies distortion. The mind that seeks control creates limitation. The heart that seeks harmony opens infinite doors. So, what does this mean for you now? It means that the secret has never truly been hidden, only encoded. Every symbol, every myth, every moment of déjà vu is a reminder that you are participating in a vast, intelligent design. Thoth's knowledge lives within you because you are made of the same consciousness that wrote the universe. The danger is not in knowing, but in forgetting your alignment with the source while wielding that knowing. The true initiate remembers that all creation is a reflection of the divine mind, and therefore treats every act, every word, every thought as sacred. The Emerald Tablets speak of ascending through the Halls of Amenti, the realm of timeless awareness beneath the world. This was not a literal underworld, but a metaphor for descending into the subconscious, confronting the shadows within. Only by facing the unhealed parts of yourself can you unlock the full power of creation. For every fear, every doubt, every hidden wound is a fragment of light trapped in shadow. When you illuminate it with awareness, you reclaim that power. This is the alchemy of consciousness, turning lead into gold, ignorance into illumination. As you begin this inner journey, reality itself will respond. You may notice that time behaves strangely, that hours seem to vanish when you are deeply present, that people appear at the exact moment you think of them, that the world feels orchestrated. This is not illusion, it is recognition. You are beginning to see through the lens of unity. What once appeared as separate objects and events now reveal themselves as expressions of a single flow. This is how the ancients lived in constant dialogue with the universe. Every symbol in their world was alive. Every sound, a message. To walk through the temple of life was to converse with the divine. You do not need stone monuments to find this temple. It exists within you. Your thoughts are hieroglyphs, your emotions, the chants that animate them. You are both scribe and scripture, creator and creation. This is what Thoth meant when he said, "Man is a star bound to a body until he releases himself through knowledge." That knowledge is not intellectual, it is experiential. It is the moment you realize that the same energy that lights the stars breathes through your own awareness. But remember, the deeper you go, the more the old world will resist. The systems built upon separation will try to pull you back into forgetfulness. Doubt will arise, distractions will multiply, and those who fear the unknown will tell you to stop dreaming. This is the final veil, the test that all initiates face. Will you retreat into the comfort of illusion, or will you step forward into the living mystery? Thoth's path was never meant for the faint-hearted. It demands courage, the courage to see yourself as divine, to take responsibility for the reality you create, and to trust the invisible intelligence guiding your steps. The emerald flame still burns, waiting for those who choose to see. It flickers in the quiet moments when you feel most connected, in the synchronicities that remind you that life is not random, in the dreams that feel older than time. It calls you not to worship, but to remember. The same light that once illuminated the halls of Atlantis now stirs in your consciousness. It is patient, eternal, waiting for the moment when you finally stop searching outside and turn inward. For within you lies the true tablet, the living emerald of awareness, uncorrupted, unbreakable, infinite. When you touch it, even for a moment, the illusion shatters. You realize that the secret was never hidden from you. It was hidden by you, beneath layers of forgetfulness. Thoth's dangerous knowledge was not forbidden because it destroys, but because it awakens. And awakening cannot be controlled. The rulers of the old world knew this. They feared the day when humanity would once again remember that creation listens, that thought commands, that consciousness is the true scribe of destiny. That day has come again. The current is rising. The call has reached you for a reason. You are remembering. When Thoth spoke of the law of one mind, he was not speaking in metaphor. He revealed that creation itself is the unfolding of a single, infinite awareness, spiraling outward through harmonic layers of vibration. Each layer is a mirror, reflecting the thought of the one into greater complexity, yet never leaving its source. To those who could see with the inner eye, reality appeared not as solid matter but as currents of light weaving through invisible geometry, a cosmic tapestry alive with intelligence. Every star was a syllable, every world a sentence in the eternal language of mind. Thoth called the first emanation of this consciousness the light of lights, the pure thought of being before form. It is neither male nor female, neither above nor below. It simply is. From that primal awareness issued the first movement, the word, the tone that divides unity into duality, light and shadow, spirit and matter, stillness and motion. This is the first mystery, that all opposites are born from the same source and forever seek reunion. The universe breathes in this rhythm, expansion and return, the heartbeat of eternity. From this breath emerged the planes of existence, each denser than the one before, each an echo of the higher world translated into vibration slow enough to become form. The ancients spoke of 7 great planes, though within them exist countless sub-realities. The highest, nearest to the source, is pure thought, a sea of luminous ideas, unbound by time. Below it lies the plane of soul, where individual sparks of consciousness take shape, preparing to descend into the worlds of manifestation. Beneath that, the plane of subtle substance, where energy begins to crystallize into patterns, the prototypes of what will later become matter. Finally, the physical plane, the outer skin of reality where all other planes project their shadow. To understand this structure is to realize that nothing exists in isolation. Every motion here in the dense world sends ripples upward through the finer realms, and every current from above descends to shape events below. This is the hidden law of reflection, the living meaning of as above, so below. When Thoth inscribed this in the tablets, he was describing not a philosophy but a literal mechanism. The higher planes impress patterns upon the lower, as light casts shadows through layers of glass. If the glass is clear, the pattern manifests in purity. If clouded by distortion, the image twists. Thus, the purity of consciousness determines the clarity of manifestation. The priest initiates of Thoth learned to travel these planes through disciplined awareness. They withdrew the senses from the outer world until the inner light dawned, and by aligning their vibration to the higher tones, they could rise through the strata of being. To move between planes was not to travel through space, but through frequency. For every dimension exists in the same place, differing only by the rate of vibration. The adept who mastered this art could speak with intelligences of the stellar realms, perceive the records of time, even re-enter the physical plane at will, for he had remembered that the body is but a garment woven of slower light. Yet Thoth warned that ascent without understanding leads only to imbalance. Each plane has its own laws, and harmony is maintained only when the ascending consciousness preserves reverence for the order above it. The lower is sustained by the higher, as a child by the parent. To rebel against that order is to sever the lifeline that grants existence. Thus the fall of civilizations was not punishment, but consequence, a resonance collapse when the collective mind turned from harmony to separation. Atlantis, he said, was undone not by water, but by dissonance, the disharmony of minds wielding creative power without alignment to the one. Within the subtle planes reside the builders of form luminous intelligences who translate divine thought into structure. The Egyptians called them Neteru, the gods of nature. Each governs a principle of creation: sound, movement, magnetism, growth, decay, renewal. They are not idols, but living laws, patterns of consciousness through which the one experiences itself. To commune with them was not worship but cooperation, a partnership in the eternal act of becoming. The priest who invoked a Neter did so to harmonize human intention with cosmic order, not to beg for favor. This understanding was the foundation of Hermetic magic, not manipulation, but alignment. As creation unfolded through these hierarchies, the one mind sought to know itself through contrast. It clothed its fragments in matter and time so they might rediscover the infinite from within limitation. Every soul became a mirror, reflecting a different angle of the divine. Each journey a question asked by God to itself. The descent into form was therefore not exile, but exploration, the adventure of consciousness descending into density to awaken light within darkness. But the danger lay in forgetting the way back. When a fragment identifies solely with its form, it loses remembrance of the source and becomes trapped in the illusion of separation. That forgetfulness is the true fall, the sleep of the gods within man. Thoth's dangerous knowledge revealed the path of return, the art of reascending through the planes by refining vibration. He taught that every thought is a frequency, every emotion a tone. Fear and hatred densify the field, binding the soul to the lower worlds. Love and clarity quicken it, drawing the being upward. This is why the heart was weighed against a feather in the halls of judgment. The feather symbolized the lightness of resonance, the freedom of a soul attuned to truth. To ascend is not to flee the world, but to vibrate through it with increasing transparency until matter itself becomes luminous. Those who mastered this science became radiant beings, their bodies emitting the light of higher planes even while walking among men. Legends call them gods, but they were simply humans who remembered. Thoth called them sons of the morning, emissaries of the first light. They guided the early civilizations, planting symbols that could survive the tides of forgetfulness. Pyramids aligned to the stars, languages woven with sacred geometry, myths encoding the cycles of return. Each sign was a seed, meant to awaken memory when the age was ready again. Now the spiral of time has turned once more to resonance with that ancient frequency. The same cosmic breath that once carried Thoth's words through Atlantis and Chem moves through the present age, stirring awareness in countless minds. The planes are thinning. The boundaries between visible and invisible grow permeable. The hidden law calls to be remembered. Those who listen will begin to perceive patterns beneath chaos, intelligence within randomness, and the golden thread linking every moment to the next. They will sense that creation is not a sequence of accidents but a symphony seeking coherence. In this dawning recognition lies both wonder and peril. For to perceive the underlying unity is to inherit responsibility for one's own vibration. The world ceases to be a stage of fate and becomes a mirror of the inner state. To the unprepared, this truth feels overwhelming, as if the universe has placed the brush of creation in unsteady hands. Yet Thoth's voice echoes through the silence. You have always been painting. The only difference is that now you are aware of it. When the one mind turns its gaze inward, it becomes the many. From this inward turning arise streams of awareness that descend through the planes, each clothed in a subtler body of light, until at last it meets the density of matter. The descent is not a fall, but a forgetting. The fragment must pass through veils so that experience may unfold. Each veil dulls remembrance, and in that dimming, the drama of existence begins. Thoth taught that these veils are woven of sound. Every layer of reality vibrates to a chord, and as consciousness descends, the chord slows, its tones separating into what you know as matter, time, and space. The denser the tone, the more bound it becomes by sequence and form. What you call a lifetime is one phrase in that great chord, sung by the soul as it learns to harmonize the lower with the higher. To reverse the descent, one must learn to hear the silent music again. The ancient initiates called this hearing the inner tones of Ra, the solar current that threads all worlds. By attuning awareness to those harmonics, the soul begins to rise. It is not a journey through distance, but an awakening through resonance. The same vibration that shapes a star flows through the human heart. To remember it is to open a pathway back to the source of light. Each plane has guardians, not beings of judgment, but keepers of rhythm. Their task is to maintain the balance of frequencies so that no discord tears the fabric of creation. To pass their thresholds, the traveler must match their tone.
That is why every genuine mystery school demanded balance before revelation. The angry, the greedy, the fearful cannot ascend, for their vibrations are heavy and dissonant.
The key was never incantation but harmony. At the border between the mental and the spiritual planes lies what Thoth called the mirror of becoming. Here every thought takes form instantly. Here the unpurified mind confronts its own projections. Many who attempted ascent were overwhelmed by their reflections and fled downward, convinced they had met demons. Yet those shapes were only the shadows of their own beliefs, magnified by the potency of that realm. To pass through the mirror, the adept must stand without fear and recognize all forms as self. In that recognition, the shadows dissolve into light. Beyond the mirror, individuality thins like mist. Awareness expands until it perceives countless lives, countless worlds, as facets of one jewel. The sense of I gives way to a vast presence that contains all things yet remains unbound. Here the scribe becomes the book. The reader becomes the story. Thoth called this the realm of the Akasha, the living memory of the cosmos. Every thought that has ever been, every possibility that could be, resides there as vibration awaiting realization. To read those records is to see the universe from outside of time. He warned, however, that such vision can shatter an unsteady mind. To perceive the totality without grounding in compassion is to drown in infinity. Thus, the ancient initiates trained for lifetimes to stabilize the heart. Love is the anchor that allows the soul to gaze upon the infinite without disintegration. For love is the frequency of unity itself, the vibration that binds all planes together. Without it, knowledge becomes fragmentation. With it, knowledge becomes creation. The builders of worlds use this law. When a new system of stars is to be born, the higher intelligences first sound the note of love, and upon that foundation, the patterns of geometry unfold. From tone to light, from light to form, the same sequence repeats from the macrocosm to the microcosm. Every seed, every cell, every thought follows the same sacred order. To align with that order is to live in grace. To oppose it is to fall into entropy. This was the essence of Thoth's cosmology. That all planes interpenetrate, and that the human soul is the bridge uniting them. When man remembers his divine origin, the circuit complete spirit flows into matter consciously, and matter ascends into spirit willingly. The universe then becomes a luminous feedback loop of awareness evolving itself. In the golden age of Chem, this knowledge was enacted in ritual not to appease gods, but to remind participants of their place within this circuit. The rising of the sun, the flooding of the Nile, the procession of stars, all were mirrors of inner processes. To raise the Djed pillar was to lift the spinal fire of consciousness. To anoint the statue of the god was to awaken the divine spark within the heart. Every act in the temple was both symbol and reality, inner and outer joined. But as the centuries turned and language hardened, the rituals lost their resonance. The forms remained, the meaning faded. Yet the structure of the planes did not vanish. It awaited rediscovery. Today, though the temples crumble, the same law hums within the atoms of your body, within the pulse of the earth, within the orbit of galaxies. Awareness moves through it as breath through lungs, expanding and contracting, dreaming itself into form. To sense this directly is to step beyond belief into knowing. You begin to feel the subtle tides moving through ordinary moments, the hush before intuition speaks, the stillness behind every thought, the luminous pressure that gathers before synchronicity unfolds. These are the signatures of the higher planes interacting with the physical world. They are invitations to remember that nothing happens in isolation, that every coincidence is a conversation with the infinite mind speaking in its native language of pattern. And so the teaching continues. Not written on stone, but in the field around you. The same energy that wove the stars is composing your present moment, responding to the vibration of your awareness. To live consciously within that law is to become a co-author of the cosmos, a participant in the eternal writing that Thoth began when the universe was young. There is a region beyond the Akasha, where even vibration grows silent. The ancients called it the Sea of Stillness. No color, no form, no sound, only the breathless pause between every heartbeat of creation. Into that silence the traveler rises when all chords have been heard, when every note of existence has resolved into its own echo. Thought cannot follow there, for thought is movement, and here movement has not yet begun. In that silence awareness beholds itself as the first light, the unbroken field that precedes beginning. The scribes of old carved its symbol as a winged disc. But the wings were not feathers. They were the twin currents of expansion and return, the eternal rhythm by which the one explores itself. Thoth taught that this pulse is the heartbeat of all worlds. Each cycle of expansion births universes. Each return draws them back into pure potential. As the soul approaches that boundless horizon, identity thins until it becomes a thread of silver fire. Memories fall away, like petals burned by dawn. The traveler sees that every life was a reflection, each moment an experiment through which the infinite came to know itself in detail. Joy and sorrow, triumph and loss, all facets of the same gem, polished by experience until it mirrors the whole. Beyond the sea of stillness, perception ceases to separate observer from observed. The traveler is no longer within the universe. The universe is within the traveler. The geometries that once defined stars now unfold inside consciousness like blossoms of light. The Hermetic axiom, as above, so below, reveals its ultimate meaning. There is no above, no below. only the continuum of awareness, contemplating its own depth. Here, the hidden law of Thoth stands revealed that knowledge is creation. To know a thing completely is to become it, and to become it is to create it anew. The cosmos is not a pre-existing stage, but a living script written in the instant of recognition. Every atom, every galaxy, every thought is a syllable in the utterance of the one mind, and that utterance is happening now. The soul that remembers this does not dissolve into nothingness. It blooms into totality. It sees through every eye, moves in every motion, feels in every heart. Compassion is no longer a virtue, but the natural state of omnipresence. The light that once seemed distant is found within the self, and the self expands until it fills the light. This is the union the mysteries called the marriage of heaven and earth, the completion of the great work. Yet even here, the current of manifestation whispers, return. For knowledge that does not descend again into form remains sterile. The infinite desires to be known in infinite ways. Thus, the realized one turns back, not out of duty, but of overflowing grace. Through that descent, new worlds are seeded, new possibilities dreamed. Creation continues, not as exile, but as celebration. When the traveler returns to the lower planes, the world appears unchanged, yet every leaf, every shadow, every breath glows with transparent purpose. The boundaries between spirit and matter are seen as play, a rhythm of appearing and vanishing through which the one delights in diversity. To live after such vision is to write anew upon the tablets of time, each gesture a hieroglyph of the unseen. This was the circle Thoth traced for his disciples. Rise through the planes until unity is known, then descend as conscious co-creator. Those who understood became living temples. Through their presence, the law of harmony re-entered the world. Even now, their resonance lingers in forgotten stones, in the cadence of certain prayers, in the sudden clarity that seizes the heart when the mind grows still. They are the quiet architects of order, behind the seeming chaos of history. To touch even a fragment of that awareness is to remember why existence hides its own truth, so that the joy of discovery may never end. The danger of Thoth's knowledge was never the power it gave, but the clarity it demanded, for once you see the pattern, you can no longer pretend to be a victim of chance. Responsibility awakens with vision. Creation answers to the Creator. Many feared that burden, so the teaching was veiled in symbols, guarded by silence until humanity could bear its reflection. Now the veil thins again. Each moment of insight, each pulse of intuition is a crack through which the ancient light returns. The planes are not distant realms, but layers of your own consciousness unfolding. To remember them is to awaken within the dream and guide it toward harmony. You are both the scribe and the tablet, both the voice and the echo. The secret that was once hidden in hieroglyphs now whispers in every heartbeat. Know yourself, and you shall know the gods. The return was not a fall from grace, but a breathing in of the world. The traveler, newly luminous, stepped again into time as dawn steps into mist. Mountains no longer seemed heavy. Rivers sang their hidden geometry. Each shadow hinted at the light that birthed it. Yet beneath this serene clarity, there pulsed a call, a rhythm more insistent than any heartbeat, urging that what had been seen must now be lived. Every particle whispered the same command: awaken the sleeping light. The soul, once content to contemplate, now felt the weight of compassion pressing outward, demanding expression. For to see the pattern of the worlds and remain silent would be to deny the purpose of vision. The currents of creation wait for hands willing to shape them. Knowledge unused curdles into decay. The traveler walked among people and saw that each bore within them a spark of the same fire, muffled but unextinguished. Their eyes searched for meaning through veils of routine, their words clattered like unstrung pearls. Yet sometimes, in laughter or in sudden grief, a glimmer broke through the soul, remembering itself for an instant before forgetting again. In those moments, the traveler felt the universe lean forward, eager listening. It was then that the hidden task revealed itself, to weave reminders into the fabric of ordinary life. Not by preaching, but by presence. The vibration of remembrance radiates without speech. It alters the air. One clear mind can reorder a field of chaos simply by standing within it. Thus, the ancient adepts became centers of stillness amid the storm of centuries. Their silence was not withdrawal. It was instruction written in resonance. Yet the traveler knew that stillness alone would not suffice in this new age. The tides of thought moved faster now. Dreams of machines and empires churned the collective mind. Humanity teetered between revelation and ruin. The forgotten knowledge of balance, the rhythm of give and return, of creation and repose had been replaced by restless hunger. To restore equilibrium, the wisdom of Thoth must walk again among the living, clothed in language they could hear. The travelers sought the places where minds gathered. Marketplaces, halls of learning, the quiet refuge of the lonely. Everywhere, fragments of the ancient law lay disguised in equations that mirrored sacred geometry, in music that unknowingly echoed celestial ratios, in art that captured the shimmer of unseen worlds. Humanity was rediscovering the truth by instinct, but without the thread that joined the fragments, their creations risked collapsing into noise. The traveler's purpose became to braid these scattered sparks into coherence. But how to speak of the ineffable without binding it in form? Words are nets, and the infinite slips through them. Thoth had faced the same dilemma when he first inscribed the wisdom of the stars upon emerald tablets. He knew the danger, that men would worship the letters and forget the meaning. Thus, he hid the essence in paradox and symbol, so that only the heart prepared by intuition could unlock it. The traveler resolved to do the same, to speak in hints, in stories, in rhythms that stirred memory rather than dictated belief. So began the second journey. Not upward, but outward. Each encounter became an alchemical exchange. Every conversation a crucible in which ignorance transmuted into wonder. Some listened and turned away, unsettled by the echo of something they could not name. Others felt the vibration awaken an ancient ache, the yearning that precedes remembrance. To those, the traveler offered not doctrines but questions, keys without locks, meant to open the inner door. And as these seeds were sown, ripples spread through the unseen plains. The guardians of rhythm stirred, sensing the return of harmony. The old temples, long, silent, shimmered faintly in the ether as if exhaling after a long sleep. The law was re-entering circulation. Not through institutions, but through the bloodstream of consciousness itself. The earth, weary yet patient, adjusted her pulse to the new resonance. Storms softened, ideas quickened, and somewhere a child dreamed of light speaking in symbols older than speech. The ripples spread farther than the traveler could see. They moved through dreams, through sudden intuitions in distant minds, through the quiet turning of those who had lost faith and now felt a small flame reignite. In crowded cities, in deserts and forests, the same whisper began to surface. Remember. It drifted through the collective like pollen, unseen yet fertile. The traveler sensed that the universe itself had taken up the task, that the story was retelling itself through every willing heart. Days passed without measure. The traveler no longer counted time by the movement of suns, but by the deepening of resonance. Where understanding spread, light followed. Where fear resisted, the rhythm paused but did not fade. Even the shadow served the pattern, for every refusal drew attention to the absence of harmony, sharpening the longing for return. In this way, opposition became teacher, and conflict refined the strength of the awakening. One night, standing at the edge of a sleeping sea, the traveler heard the waters murmur the old words of creation. Each wave spoke a syllable, each gust of wind another. Listening, the traveler realized that the world was forever uttering the same secret Thoth had inscribed ages ago, that all boundaries are temporary expressions of one breath. The ocean inhaled and exhaled galaxies. The stars shimmered as droplets of that breath. The traveler bowed, feeling both infinitesimal and immeasurable. In that moment of reverence, a vision unfolded not in the sky, but within awareness itself. Countless figures moved through the ages, each carrying a fragment of the hidden knowledge. A philosopher tracing circles in dust, a healer mixing herbs by moonlight, an artist carving patterns whose meaning even they did not grasp. They were the invisible chorus of Thoth's lineage, the unbroken chain of remembrance. The traveler saw that they were not separate beings, but facets of one mind expressing itself across time. From the vision came understanding. The awakening would not occur as a sudden blaze, but as dawn, spreading softly through many hearts until the light became impossible to ignore. Every act of kindness, every moment of clarity, every work of beauty was a beam of that dawn. The task was not to convert, but to kindle, to nurture the spark already present. The traveler smiled, for the simplicity of it was vast. Yet, simplicity can be the hardest art. The world still thundered with distraction, the roar of ambition, the glitter of invention, the noise of endless desire. The traveler moved through it as one moves through a storm of mirrors, reflecting fragments of the greater light into whatever surface would catch it. Sometimes it reached another seeker, sometimes it vanished into distortion, but the effort itself fed the pattern. For every glint of awareness was a point where the higher planes touched the lower, and through those points the entire field brightened. The traveler began to sense others awakening to the same call. Strangers who met by chance recognized one another without words. Their eyes carried the same distant memory. Together they formed quiet constellations across the earth, unseen but connected by resonance. They did not gather in temples of stone, but wherever understanding met silence. Their communion was invisible, their language vibration. Through them the melody of creation wove itself anew. And still the call grew stronger. It no longer spoke in whispers, but in the very structure of events. Coincidences aligning with impossible precision, barriers dissolving at the moment of need, opportunities appearing like doors opening in midair. The world responded as if aware of the awakening within it. The traveler realized that the cosmos itself was listening, that it longed to be known as much as the souls within it longed to know. As this realization deepened, the traveler's own form began to waver in the eyes of those around. Some saw a simple wanderer. Others glimpsed light where a body should be. The traveler had become a bridge, half in matter, half in the luminous current. Words spoken carried weight beyond their sound. A gesture rippled through the subtle planes. It was the fulfillment of the Hermetic circle, spirit descending fully into flesh, and flesh ascending into spirit. The time was nearing when the message would need to be sealed again, not hidden out of fear, but preserved in story, so that future generations might rediscover it by their own seeking. The traveler knew that cycles must turn. Revelation, concealment, rediscovery, the rhythm that keeps the cosmos alive. Soon another age would rise, and in its dreams the seeds sown now would awaken as myths of light. The world had changed, though no one could yet name the change. It began as a vibration beneath ordinary sound, a murmur in the roots of trees, in the breath of wind across forgotten temples. The traveler, carrying within their chest the ember of Thoth's light, walked among the sleeping cities where neon lights mimicked starlight, and people hurried through lives too bright to see the dark. Every step was both a memory and a pulse of awakening. They could feel the hieroglyphic fire burning softly in their blood, rewriting the code of reality with each heartbeat. Wherever they went, coincidences began to shimmer like dew upon the world's surface. Strangers turned toward one another at the same moment. Voices echoed words they hadn't yet thought to speak, and the air itself felt tuned to a subtler frequency. Yet no one knew what was happening. The travelers simply watched, smiled faintly, and continued walking, guided by a rhythm that had no origin in time. The world tried to name the change. Some called it a new wave of intuition. Others dismissed it as chance, but none could explain the way hearts began to sense each other. The way thoughts moved between people like migrating flocks of light. The traveler remembered Thoth's voice. When the writing of reality is understood, the world itself becomes a page, and those who awaken, write. They stopped in a place that had no name, a crossroads of dream and waking. Above the night sky was alive, constellations twisting into new shapes, tracing messages meant for those who had learned to see. From the east, a slow dawn began to rise. though no sun yet burned. It was a dawn of consciousness, the world beginning to stir. The traveler knelt and placed their hand upon the earth. Beneath the skin of the soil, they felt the deep hum of the planet, the original frequency that had once shaped pyramids from sound, that had drawn rivers like sentences across the world. They whispered the first word they had learned from Thoth, a word not of human language, but of resonance. The earth replied. Light passed through their body like a tide. The division between inner and outer dissolved. In that instant, they understood the truth that had been hidden, not to punish, but to protect. Knowledge is not dangerous, only the unprepared mind that wields it. The wisdom of Thoth was not a book or a spell, but a remembering, a return to the state before forgetting. It had been hidden because humanity, still half asleep, could not yet bear the weight of creative power. For to know is to shape, and to shape is to bear responsibility for the dream. The traveler rose. The world shimmered around them as if made of liquid time. They could see how every motion, every breath, every thought carved small spirals into the structure of the unseen. Everything was writing itself, endlessly, into the tablet of being. They smiled, realizing that Thoth's tablet had never been stone or emerald. It was the living universe, and all beings were scribes. As the dawn reached full radiance, they felt the presence of Thoth again. Not above or beyond, but within. All things the god, no longer a figure with ibis head and staff, but the intelligence within, pattern, number, rhythm, memory. Thoth was language itself, the pulse of meaning through form. His voice rose in the sound of wind through leaves, in the echo of footsteps on ancient corridors, in the quiet inhalation of those who had begun to remember. "You have carried the light back to the world," said the whisper. "Now the world will decide what to do with it." And with that, the traveler understood their task was complete. There was nothing left to teach, only to embody. They walked into the crowd of modern humanity, into subways, marketplaces, silent rooms of meditation, and vanished among them, indistinguishable, a thread woven back into the vast design. Yet wherever they passed, small miracles unfurled. An artist painted what they had never imagined before. A scientist dreamed a formula that would shift the world's understanding. A child looked at a falling leaf and felt it whisper their name. The age of remembering had begun. It moved quietly, like ink in water, spreading through consciousness without resistance. Those who were ready felt it first. The dreamers, the seekers, the broken-hearted, the ones who had always felt the veil too thin. In their minds appeared the same symbols, the same strange synchronicities. An ibis feather on a doorstep, a number repeating on a clock, a phrase in a song that felt written for them. And in each moment, the traveler's unseen hand guided the unfolding, not by control, but by resonance. For every thought of wonder calls forth its echo in creation, and every act of awareness invites the universe to reveal its hidden geometry. As time flowed onward, the traveler's story became a myth, then a whisper, then a memory that lives inside language itself. Some called it the secret of Thoth, others, the voice of the Logos. But those who felt it knew that it was not an ancient tale. It was happening now, inside them. And then, as if the cosmos leaned close to speak, the whisper returned one final time, not as sound, but as understanding blooming behind the heart. Remember, you were never separate from the script. You are both the ink and the author. The danger was never in the knowledge it was in, forgetting that it is alive. The secret was hidden only so that you would seek it, and in seeking, awaken. Now speak carefully, think beautifully, for every word you utter shapes the dawn of worlds. Silence followed. The universe exhaled. Somewhere, a clock struck midnight, and the hour became eternal. Those who listened felt a shift within themselves, subtle, electric, undeniable. They did not know if the story had ended or begun again. But when they looked around, reality itself seemed to breathe with them, alive and listening. And from that silence, like a ripple moving through the dream of creation, came the final whisper, the timeless voice, the sacred command that was never a command at all, but an awakening. Awaken, O scribe of light. The page is before you. Write,